What makes a masterpiece? In my eyes, it's something that doesn't always have to be objectively flawless. In fact, it probably won't ever be. To call anything a masterpiece means to say that it made you feel something that you don't often feel. Maybe it's due to the clever writing. Maybe it's the hype-inducing action. Maybe it's the compelling story. It could be anything that provokes some strong emotion from you. And I'm sure there's at least one game you can confidently say met those criteria for you, regardless of what anyone else said. It's something I can't really capture on a review scale. Everyone has different interests. Everyone has different experiences. So a game is going to make every person feel something different, whether feeling it good or not. So why even bother with numbers that attempt to give the illusion of objective greatness, because that doesn't even exist. A good game isn't good because it checks the boxes of story, gameplay and sound. It's something a bit more personal. A feeling so rare and unique that it can often be hard to pinpoint why exactly we enjoyed it so much. And even if we do, no one's going to have the exact same experience as us, so one person's impression of a game is not necessarily going to be relevant to anyone else's. But if that's the case, why the hell am I trying to make every single one of you think that The World Ends With You is a masterpiece simply from my own experiences? Well, you're right. That's totally unrealistic, and I doubt I'll even be able to convey what I really want to through this type of video. But what I know I can do is tell you everything about this game that appealed to me, personally. Subjectivity and all. No bridges here. No barriers here. Like, nothing's off limit or anything like that. And I'm hoping something. I honestly don't know how, but I'm hoping that it'll appeal to your interests and needs enough to make you consider the cost of buying either the DS or mobile version an absolute steal, because they are. So here it is, my unfiltered thoughts on The World Ends With You. Let's go. The World Ends With You is a game released in 2007, and it follows the ventures of a pessimistic butthole called Neku. He's a pretty horrible teenager who has an ego so massive that he's convinced himself that life would be better off without the burden of other people. Thankfully, he's about to get a bit of a reality check. He's been forced to play a game against his will. However, this isn't a fun game. Rather, it's one that's ultimately going to determine whether he will live or die. In his hands are a black pin and a timer, no one can see him, no memory of anything before being plastered onto the road, and to make things even worse, some strange graffiti frogs seem to want him dead. But that's all I'm going to tell you. I intentionally made this a very shallow summary, as I think with any game, it's better that you go in with as little info about the story as possible. And in this case, it's the most important thing about the experience easily. You'll be asking so many questions to yourself up until the end. What's the point of this game? Who are these people with wings? How does Neku talk to people with headphones on the whole time? Does he even have a neck? These are mysteries that you want to solve, and it'll keep you engaged throughout each in-game day. It'll make you lose your head after all the plot twists, question the authenticity of each of the characters you meet, build your expectations for the conclusion, and still, somehow, leave you satisfied with such a strong character-focused ending that I'm losing breath, but it lived up to all I could have hoped for. Holy crap! This game's design is crazy. Firstly, this thing. Just move a little to the left. You're a little, it's almost there, yep, almost about. Just move a little closer, come on, just a little bit, right there. This is brilliant. Basically you level up by fighting battles as per usual in a normal RPG. But in this game, you can actually change your level to anything below your current level at any time. Now you may be thinking to yourself, that's stupid, why would anyone want to do that? But the thing is, the likelihood of you getting a drop from an enemy actually increases the more you decrease your level. The trade-off? Well, since you lowered your level, the battles are going to be a lot harder than usual. So in other words, there's always a challenge available if you choose to take it. And the rewards for taking that challenge are so good because with the drop rates increasing, you're going to be able to get some really rare items that you probably would never be able to get otherwise. It is such an original idea, and I am completely baffled that this idea hasn't been stolen by any other games that I know of. Another original idea is that you have to buy stuff from shopkeepers in order for them to love you. Okay, I tried to say that as seriously as I could in order to hide how stupid that sounded. I don't think it would. And feel willing to sell you stronger items and reveal the abilities that are tied to them. So it's pretty essential to buy the stuff you only slightly want. But even so, it doesn't feel like you're buying their garbage, as you'll actually need a lot of the items you buy. Sure, you can only equip 4 bits of clothing to a character at a time, But the thing is that you will be using far more than just 4 of the same old items throughout the entire game, at least if you want to play on anything above easy. And it does this through trends. Both items and pins each have their own brand, and in each different area on the map, they have their own leaderboard that tells you which of the brands is most popular in that area. If you use items and pins from the most popular brand, your attack will be doubled, but on the other hand, if you use things from the least popular brand, your attack will halve. So in other words, fashion forces you to use more than just one set of items throughout the game, as each pin or piece of clothing receives extra bonuses at different times, to the point where they may actually end up being your strongest piece of gear in that specific region. It constantly changes how you play the game, unlike most RPGs where you usually end up settling for the best armor or weapons and then never look back. It's such a smart way to force us to play the game differently every now and then, even though some of the region's fashion sense is, how should I put it, certainly beautiful. Of course, you don't always have to follow the trends every single time you fight, as the consequences aren't truly devastating. For me, I just worried about it when I was looking for a rare drop or something and lowered my level with the slider. But either way, it's still an incredible addition that I really can't emphasize enough is one of the smartest design choices I've ever seen in any game. But the thing is, if you ever get stuck on a boss that, even with your trendy equipment, you feel you can't possibly beat and are too stubborn to succumb to peasant mode, then don't fret. In this game, you actually get experience for your pins when you're not playing for a maximum of 7 days. Experience for doing absolutely nothing. So if you're ever frustrated that you can't beat a certain boss and end up despising the game, just wait a few days and come back to it. It encourages you to play the game again after a bit of time, so you're less likely to hit a wall and stop playing entirely. And it's probably healthier to take a break too, though that doesn't always happen. But this doesn't end up breaking the game either. The thing is, when you come back, you still have to change your gear. Why? Because you need to match the trends. You can't just rely on time passing. It's genius! Now on my channel, I try and be honest with you guys, even when we're dealing with something that is probably my favourite game of all time. And it kills me to say this, believe me. But the dual screen combat, it works pretty well. But it could be better. Whew. Pretty much in the DS version, the game asks you to fight using both the top and the bottom screens at the same time, and it works to some extent. You have full control over the movement of this dimwit and his pins through various touch inputs, which works pretty well, and you also have to control his partner on the top screen, who, whilst you don't have to move, you have to control which attacks they're going to use in the fight. Not only that, but you have to pay attention on the top screen to the various patterns that you can choose from, and that'll lead on to a special attack you can use later on, which is pretty strong. You also have to dodge with both characters, so moral of the story, it just felt like too much, one thing too many. Maybe if the game used music to tell you how to control the character on the top screen, I think that would work a bit more fluidly as you wouldn't have to look up there as much. Or maybe just simplify the patterns overall. I think just something needed to be taken out, as the battle system was never something I grew super confident with, as it almost feels impossible to master. First time you try it, you'll probably lose it, but as you go on, you'll eventually get a solid grasp of it. The best way to do it is to not try and handle both screens at the same time. After all, our brains can't really handle multitasking all too well. Just make sure you follow the green light they call the puck across both screens, focus on the character it's attached to, and you'll be fine. You will still get hit, as you are sort of neglecting one character momentarily, but the puck is a damage multiplier, so it is in your best interest to do so. Otherwise. Yeah. The game explores real-life ideas, issues that everyone deals with or has dealt with in some capacity. Things make the most sense when you try and treat the characters as symbols for more general ideas. For example, this twat is an exaggeration of the pessimism we all have. There's a real strong irony to him. You can see that he constantly complains about how forming relationships holds him back and everything, but it's actually his unwillingness to form these bonds in the first place that ends up obstructing progress. It's his growth that forms the backbone of the game's message, and it's so easily resonated with me, as I'm sure it has to many other people, even though his character is very much exaggerated. As for the side characters, Shiki is representative of damaged self-esteem, Pete is representative of familial protection and finding individual purpose through others, Rhyme displays the value of unfitted optimism, and just a completely random aside on this character, I think it was pretty interesting to see the way she handles herself, as she often presents as the most lost among the group, but she actually comes off as the happiest. But the most fascinating character in my opinion is Joshua, and it's his interactions with this Cretan that makes him insanely interesting. Such a well thought out character that will play with your emotions so much, and single-handedly made the time spent with him the most enjoyable part of the entire game. And even beyond these 5, there are so many more brilliant ideas shown through other characters that I'm not even going to bother to mention, because you should just play this game and see it for yourself. Grief, sacrifice, emotional vulnerability, envy, trust, forgiveness, redemption. These are just some of the ideas the game targets, and it ends up handling them pretty well. You could honestly just do an entire English thesis on this, but of course I'm not going to, because I'm done with high school and therefore will never have to write an essay ever again. Damn it. But beyond the story, I can even find symbols in the actual game. Even the Reaper's game itself almost feels like a massive allegory to life, for if you fail to form strong relationships with your partner, you lose the game and get erased. Not just killed, erased. Your existence literally disappears if you fail to leave an impression on other people. That's nuts. Another cool allegory involves the main enemies. You'll constantly have to fight these creatures known as the Noise, and often you'll find them tormenting other people, and that ends up coming out of them as negative emotion. The only way to beat the Noise is to work with your partner. You take them out, they feel better. But get this right. It is literally impossible to take them out alone. In fact, without a partner, you're bound to die. What I'm trying to say is that there is a lot here, and you'd be doing yourself a massive disservice to not experience this game at least once. We're at the final part. It's a long trek to part 4, so better pack my bag then. Can't believe I've done this. Okay, now I know what you're thinking right now. My hair got shorter just then, just in that second. I didn't film these on different days. This is the same day that I filmed everything before this. And this is completely unrelated to the video. I don't even know I should be saying this, but I realized that on my ears it was a bit long. Like my hair was just a bit long. It looked a bit strange, so I actually cut it myself. And then eventually that looked uneven, so I cut this side. And I cut everything except the front, but the front was really long for some reason, so I cut that, and now I have given myself a haircut. What is this? What? Oh. Why is this so short? Oh no. Oh. That's still long as well. Is that okay for it to be like that? Oh, does that look weird? I can't even tell. It just all looks weird. Oh my god, am I actually gonna upload this? Alright, we should keep going. It's gonna get dark soon. Okay, so this next segment is gonna be the main crux of this style of video, and it's really the main reason why I decided to change my video style completely. I found recently that I often finish a game that could be really fun. It could be, you know, say take a game like Gunvolt. That was the game I last reviewed, and that was a game that I found really fun. But at the same time, I still sort of came out of it a little dissatisfied in a way. Like, it was a very fun game, really made well, but I sort of felt like it was meaningless. And you can sort of have that feeling with anything really, but especially with entertainment sort of things, you often come out happy, but a little feels sort of like you wasted your time. So that's why I've decided to make this style of video. It's to sort of inform you guys about the games out there that are meaningful, and that you learn something from it, or you gain something from it, and you don't regret playing it, right? And there's a reason why I decided to start with The World Ends With You as the first video in this series, and it's because of how powerful this game's message was to me when I first played it. Too often, I've decided to be the pessimistic butthole. Pessimistic butthole. It's a little chilly, I might just put a jumper on. So in my lifetime, I've never really been all that social. You know, I think for a lot of people like me, it can sort of be easy to excuse why that is by saying, you know, we feel like we don't fit in anywhere. Blame our culture as being too restrictive, blame our lifestyle for being too out there, or even just blame the people around us for not showing what we deem is important. For me, I got to this point where I sort of came to the conclusion that if someone didn't have the same interests and personality as me, we couldn't be friends, so I wouldn't even bother talking to them. For example, living in Australia, sport is a massive part of people's lives, like the vast majority of them, and it almost feels like everyone. I'm not even overstating that. It genuinely feels like 99% of people. And that sucks for someone who's never really been into sport. You know, I've played sport in the past and everything, but that sort of felt more like an obligation because, you know, it's so ingrained in our culture that, you know, I should at least try it. And I tried many different sports, but I just could never really get into it or develop any passion. So whenever I met someone, it almost always turned out like this.
Hey, nice to meet you, buddy.
Oh, nice to meet you.
So, did you see the footy game?
No, I don't follow footy, sorry.
I completely understand.
Oh, really? Thanks. No one usually...
So you're a soccer fan, aren't you?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, so cricket's your game, I see.
No, not that either.
Hockey?
No.
Tennis?
No.
Basketball?
No.
Lacrosse?
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
So as you might have guessed, I got pretty sick of this, and I usually did everything in my power to stay away from these types of people. Not because they're bad people, but just because we could never really talk about anything, because sport was such a massive part of their lives and had such an absence in my life. And it wasn't just these sporty people, it was anyone who didn't fit my criteria that I made for myself. As vain as it sounds, I had in my head, I was like, if a person doesn't have this interest and this personality and these sort of ideals, then I wouldn't even bother going out of my way to talk to them. And of course, having such a quick judgment like that is gonna really not give anyone a chance, as below shallow interests there are going to be some really positive traits that I'm sure I would have appreciated. Of course, being a judgmental prick, I wasn't able to see all the positive traits. I ended up longing for anyone who fit this criteria that I set for myself. So really, I ended up pushing most people away, if not everybody. And at the time, I actually thought it paid off, because I eventually came to meet this pool of people who, you know, they seemed like the people that I wanted to be around, and I was really excited because they were binary opposite to everyone that I was used to. And I thought we could really hit it off. We were gonna do all these things, and it was really exciting because it felt like an environment that I was gonna be a part of for a long time. And you want to know what happened? It ended up being the exact same. They met everything that I thought I wanted. You know, I thought I'd just fit in seamlessly. That's without any effort. That's genuinely what I thought. And that was when the excuses came in, and I was like, oh yeah, this is just because everyone's at fault, and that, you know, it's not me, it's everyone else. So I eventually just gave up. I soon came across The World Ends With You, and I played it, finished it, thought about it, wowed by it. Neku throughout the game instantly dismisses all types of people, generalizing them as a complete waste of time and thinking that he would be better off without anyone. But eventually he learns the value of opening up to others, and it's brilliant to see that happening, especially if you were a person like me who, you know, just needed that reality check. And that sort of started up a cascade of events that led me to the conclusion that it wasn't anyone else's fault. It was entirely my fault. Pessimistic butthole. You know, no one's going to have the exact same interests and personalities, so having that unrealistic expectation is just gonna... I guess it just left me feeling completely isolated. And even then, it was easy to justify my thinking by saying that it was because it was a failure of the community rather than, you know, a failure to put myself out there in the first place. But it's an excuse, and a terrible one at that. And that's the most powerful idea that's presented in The World Ends With You. You're only going to meet people you genuinely like if you put yourself out there. Get ready to get hurt, get ready to meet people you're really happy with. You know, either way, the rewards for doing that in the first place is, you know, they're invaluable. And the consequences for not doing that can be really dire. And when I truly realized that, and I went out of my way to talk to people that I wouldn't usually talk to, I found that, I don't know, I was able to really see a side of them that I would have been completely oblivious to if I didn't do so. And, you know, I think I just judge people as strictly one-dimensional, which is completely, like, ignorant to other people. It's horrible. It's a really horrible thought to have, and you know, talking to these people that I wouldn't have talked to otherwise, you know, they have their own experiences and you learn stuff from them, and you know, it makes you a better person as well. You know, take the sport example. I actually talked to this person who, you know, was really big into sport, and I probably otherwise would have judged him as one-dimensional, but you know, just from what I've seen with different people, this game and all these other things, I don't know, I was now able to see a side of them that I would have been completely oblivious to. It's such a fundamental thing to put yourself out there, and I think the best quote in this game that sums that idea up is from Mr. Hanakoma, who is a man who usually helps you out throughout the game, and he sort of acts as a guardian angel in a way. So he says, "The world ends with you. If you want to enjoy life, expand your world. You gotta push your horizons out as far as they'll go." And there are so many more quotes that push that idea so hard, and I'm baffled it took me that long to realize something so basic to living. I guess I ended up feeling like I was an outsider looking in through a window to this raw and unfiltered version of myself. You know, Neku's a very exaggerated character, don't get me wrong, and some people even say he's emo. I don't think I'd go that far, but he certainly shows some qualities to that, and I don't think I was as publicly scornful of others as Neku is throughout the game, but I certainly had very similar ideas in my head, and I think just seeing someone say it so publicly to other people, I guess it sort of showed me how much of an arse I was. I guess it just made me reconsider my way of being, and I'd like to say that I'm a much more open and generally happy person now. Now, as you may have guessed, this feels like a game that's aimed towards teenagers, but I really hesitate to say that, as I know that that's the sort of comment that instantly diminishes the quality of any type of game in a lot of people's eyes, and fair enough. But let me assure you that this isn't an angsty game. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Why can I say that so confidently? Well, just look at the Japanese title. Okay, maybe the translation. It's a wonderful world. And the meaning in that title is so patently clear that I'm not even going to talk about it. Sure, there are a few issues with the game. The combat can be overwhelming at times, the first few hours feel slightly rushed, but a masterpiece isn't always perfect. And I think if a game makes you feel something real, then that title is well deserved. I'm not sure how valuable it'll be to you, but I know that as a game, you won't feel cheated of your time nor money. I would love it if you commented down below about your own individual stories with this game, or any game in particular, as I've been online and there are some pretty amazing stories, especially with this game. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. Oh, actually. Oh, probably... I honestly... Oh, no, it's all uneven. It's all uneven. Oh, no. It's so uneven. Maybe this is okay. Maybe this is okay. Maybe I'll live.